Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss how government incompetence has led to their investment in trying to recruit more custom staff actually being used just to swindle public money and potentially even hide the scale of the issue we have in terms of shortfall of customs agents for the end of the year. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, as a result of leaving the customs union, of course, with the EU, we are setting up customs borders all around the UK. Not all around the UK, actually. Northern Ireland is only having one with the rest of the UK, not with the EU as such. But not to worry, to compensate for the lack of a customs border around the whole of Northern Ireland, Boris Johnson decided to place one around Kent instead. So that all balances out. But of course, where you have new customs arrangements, you also need the people to be able to check through all the documentation. This is where we bring in the extra 50,000 bureaucrats necessary to make all this new friction with most of our trade work. A number that, as reported in the Financial Times months ago, would mean that the UK will have more bureaucrats than the entire EU Commission. So much for Brexit reducing bureaucracy. But what this has meant was that although the government knew in 2016 that we were going to need this massively expanded customs arrangements in place, nothing was actually done until this year. Despite spending years expecting to leave the EU, we didn't even begin serious preparations until we'd actually left. And this has got nothing to do with, we didn't know what sort of deal we're going to get. These arrangements were needed regardless of the deal. As soon as we made the decision to leave the customs union, this was going to be needed. The money that was supposed to be used towards recruitment and training of new staff, in theory, this should have been relatively straightforward. After all, this Conservative government, through a combination of Brexit, mishandling of COVID and just general economic tomfoolery, have created quite a lot of unemployment. So attracting staff, I would have thought, would have been relatively easy, all things considered. I don't think it would actually be easy to recruit 50,000 people in such a short time, but and to train them and to integrate them into the system so it's all nice, smooth running machine. But it's easier than it might have been at times of much higher employment, I would have thought. Only it seems there's been a few cock-ups. You surprise me, Phil. Yes. According to another report now in the Financial Times, there's been a few little fiddles going on. Now, I'm sure that some of this money has been used to recruit and train genuinely new staff. But the way the government has set it up doesn't have to be. So what's been happening, apparently, is that some companies have just been poaching existing customs workers from other companies. They call that new staff and they take the grant. So basically you've got workers being passed around, claimed as new and getting the government money for this. The report used examples of recruitment agencies advertising experienced staff on their books, whilst also reminding potential employers of the subsidies and grants available. Also noted that the average salary of new recruits seems to be inflated somewhat to the point where it's almost the same as really experienced staff's wages. So either the rate for new staff has been inflated, or much more likely they're passing off quite a lot of experienced staff as new. So when the government talks about the number of new agents it has recruited, we don't even know how many of them are actually new. All we know is it's certainly not 100% of them. And it strikes me as yet another example of how the government are going to, at some point, boast about some figures with apparently no concern for the fact that it's very misleading. Like the government constantly talk about the fact, we're recruiting 50,000 extra staff. How many have we actually recruited? Given that the government have committed us to a hard Brexit, deal or no deal, like I said, what we require of them is to at least provide the staff and infrastructure to manage the situation in a way that will let those businesses that can remain competitive without free access to Europe's single market actually carry out their trades. We are a large, wealthy nation on the shores of Europe, and we are about to have a situation whereby Mongolia is going to be able to trade more easily with our continental neighbours than we do. And that's to say nothing of the mess that is still to be unleashed across the Irish Sea, where the problems were always going to be amplified. The government have also been warned that with the current pandemic, Even if they had enough customs agents, that's still not actually going to be enough when you factor in how many will be isolating with symptoms at any one time, because this pandemic is still rumbling on. And we don't have enough. You know, again, like I say, we don't know how many we have. I have seen Michael Gove asked several times how many of the 50,000 staff have been recruited and trained. I've seen him asked it. I've never seen him answer it. So along with the problems with the IT systems, which are still also nowhere near ready, which I already talked about recently, we also can't be confident that we have enough staff to carry out the necessary checks. I can't sit here and say we definitely haven't recruited those 50,000. I think it's very unlikely. But I can say that the government have not announced that they've met that target yet. We also have the problem that companies who trade with Europe have got no experience of customs declarations of the sort that are going to be needed. Now, the government's solution to this was, tell you what, we'll chuck a few quid at it. £200 million to help these companies fill out their forms. What does that mean? That means employing customs agents. This is above and beyond the 50,000. Employing customs agents so that we can have people to help those businesses complete their forms. But we still need 50,000 new agents to also check the forms. So even if the forms get completed, we need 50,000 extra on top of what we already have. I don't know what that is, to check them out. Another unspecified number to help complete the forms, because I don't know how many staff this £200 million is going to cover. And we just don't have them. You know, I'd also argue that due to the complexity of the customs declaration process, I don't believe you can just hire someone new, give them half a day's orientation and 2-page PDF and let them loose. I would imagine it's going to be fairly inefficient, the new customs agents in their first few weeks getting to grips with everything. And then even then, every now and then they're going to get something thrown up that they've not come across before. And again, leafing through the guidance documents is going to cost time, isn't it? And we're actively trying to avoid delays. The head of the Road Haulage Association was reported as saying, this is what happens when supply outstrips demand. Even companies who want to hire genuine new recruits need experienced hands to train them, and there is just not enough time left to train them. And that's the problem. It's always been the problem, all the way through 2020. Not enough time. All the government do is talk about, well, we've put this investment in place, we've given this money in place. How much of the money has been spent? Because that might be an indication of how successful this putting money into the system has been. You know, money can't magically train a massively expanded workforce, even if they had it. Like Bernard, the head of the Road Haulage Association, says, who is going to train them? Let's say you've got an industry and each year it takes on, of course, new workers, and you've got some old hands in that company to show them the ropes. You know, but it can only cope with a small percentage, can't it? You need enough of those old hands to be able to help them along as well as do their own work. So how much would 50,000 new staff represent? How many people do you need to train 50,000? And what does that leave you over? See, I tried to find out how many customs agents we had at the end of last year. I can't find the answer. I'll tell you what I did find. I found an article that revealed that in 2018, the Home Office were asked this. This would be under Theresa May. The Home Office was asked, how many customs agents do we actually have in this country? They didn't know. They didn't know. So I have no base figure for the number of customs agents that we had before we left the EU. But I think it will be fanciful to suggest that we employed hundreds of thousands of them to the point where they'd be able to take on 50,000 and be able to train them up and supervise them and look after them. So that means, and it will have been far less, by the way, because I cannot overstate just how much extra customs checks are going to have to take place. Because although some customs checks take place, we do trade with countries where customs checks have to take place. So the staff do already exist and certain systems still have to be used. But it's tiny compared with what we're going to have to do. It is very, very small. And so, you know, with the 50,000 new customs agents needed, plus the extra customs agents that are going to be funded by the government to help companies out, plus customs brokers that work privately, because some of these small haulage firms, for example, are not going to be able to afford to take on staff to fill the forms in. So they'll need to use a customs broker, private customs broking service to be able to do that for them. So there's people who will need to work for those as well. So we can't possibly have the staff necessary to train them, let alone train them and still have enough experienced agents to carry out, the actual customs checks. So that's where we are, and that's not a problem that is going to be solved at all. The government at the moment do not seem to be able to say how many customs agents we've got, how many have been trained. If they've been trained, the system doesn't exist for them to familiarise themselves to use it. So how are they going to get up to speed with the new customs arrangements when the system that's going to handle it all isn't available? And I think customs checks are relatively complex, because you're constantly going to have things thrown up that are a bit strange. Leafing through books, it's going to take ages. Have the government factored this into their prediction of delays? I suppose we'll find that out in a couple of months. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.